Oh hi. Recife, the city and municipality in Brazil, the capital of the state of Pernambuco. Mesoregion component agglomeration of Recife. Is in structure of large city agglomeration of Recife. Enters the economical and statistical microregion of Recife. This city is often called the Brazilian Venice, thanks to a set of bridges, canals and beautiful ancient buildings. To Docolombova an era the territory was inhabited by Indian tribes in a stupor, being engaged in hunting, fishery and primitive agriculture. A Portuguese expedition on the management Gonçalo Colliu visited the area in 1501, having noted his wealth valuable breeds of trees, but, at the same time, lack of gold and aggression of natives. In 1535 Portuguese Duarte Colliu took out the patent for the basis of a capitania of Pernambuco from the king, and the next year founded the centre of new colony, the city of Olinda. Today the suburb of Recife. In administrative documents of colony existence of the fishing village of Recife near Olinda, which was founded by several families of fishermen from among newcomers of colonists, is noted. Gradually the village developed in the small port. In 1594 both settlements were taken and plundered by the English pirate James Lancaster. In the course of restoration the most part of citizens moved in Recife, which became the new capital. Due to the aggravation of contradictions between Portugal and Holland in the 1620s in the city defensive works were constructed. Nevertheless, it didn't help, and in 1630 Dutches took a capitania of Pernambuco and adjacent territories, having founded the Dutch Brazil. The region those years was one of trade triangle tops between Europe, Africa and South America. Spices, sugar and valuable breeds of a tree from Brazil were delivered to Europe. There were on sale, on the gain money goods which in Africa exchanged at local leaders on slaves who, in turn, were on sale in Brazil were bought. In the middle of the 17th century the city of Mauritsstad, founded on the next island, served as the administrative centre of the Dutch Brazil. There was a headquarters of the Dutch West Indian Company. Nowadays, one of the urban areas of Recife. From 1637 to 1644 the German Prince Johann Moritz, with whose activity connect blossoming of Recife and colony in general, was the chief manager of the Dutch Brazil. Active construction, the religious world between Catholics, Calvinists and Jews, rapid development of trade, big investments in culture and education, all this made Recife one of the most prospering cities of both America, attracting to the city a great number of immigrants from around the world. Johann Moritz's activity didn't find understanding in the board of directors of the company, which considered her purpose from purely commercial point of view, and considered investments in development of colony by non-productive costs. In 1644 Johann Moritz was removed from the position. The policy of the subsequent managing directors, directed only to maximizing profits of the company, caused growth of discontent of locals, and then an emergence of the insurgent movements supported by local planters and dealers. In particular, the Pernambuco Revolt of 1645. As a result, in 1654 the Dutch Brazil stopped the existence, having returned under the power of Portuguese. Pernambuco always was the most restless part of Brazil. Locals were ready to assert their rights and beliefs up in arms. So, in 1666 there was a revolt of the minding unpopular governor sent from the mother country. The governor was recalled. Here in 1710-1711, so-called War of Peddlers. The contradictions which reached a stage of street fights between planters and city dealers. And in 1817, the Pernambuco Revolution. Attempt to leave structure of Portugal and to proclaim the Republic. Declaration of Independence of Brazil in 1822 and creation of the Brazilian Empire caused growth of separatist sentiments in the south and the northeast of the country. And their local elite was ready in favor of the Federal Republic, while the Emperor took Peter I headed for creation of the unitary state with a rigid political regime. The northeast of Brazil at the time, both in economic and in the cultural plan, was much more connected with Portugal than with the rest of the country. Among local elite: planters, scotovadolets and dealers. An example of social and political system the south of the USA seemed. Further increase of contradictions between the capital and the region led to a revolt. On July 2, 1824, Rizzo took Recife under control, having announced in the capital of the new state, Equatorial Confederation, and having urged other provinces of the north and northeast to join them. Disorders swept by all northern part of Brazil, as a result the provinces of Pernambuco, Ceará, Paraíba and Alagoas. The last was captured almost at once by the Brazilian troops. During Confederation, some more provinces took a waiting attitude. Great Britain, supporting to Peter I, took a hostile stand in relation to Rizzo, as predetermined their defeat. The English Admiral Thomas Cochrane, ordering the Brazilian fleet, entered a total block of the coast, having destroyed trade of Confederation and having cut off it from sources of military equipment. Meanwhile, the Brazilian troops, which landed in August in Maceió, receiving reinforcements and supply by sea, moved ahead to the Confederation capital. On September 12, 1824, the storm of Recife, continuing 5 days, during which the city was strongly destroyed, began. The remains of insurgent army receded to Ceará, where continued resistance till December, but war was already lost. Defeat of the Equatorial Confederation and execution of her leaders didn't help the government to pacify Pernambuco. The lack of political freedoms, consecutive reduction of independence of the province, corruption among representatives of the central power and domination of the English capital caused a new revolt of 1848-1849. First, the revolt quickly extended, covering everything new areas, and on February 2, 1849, insurgents attacked Recife. Storm of the city was unsuccessful, coming or rejected, as became the beginning of the end of a revolt. By the beginning of the 20th century, of Recife was the prospering city, the second after Rio de Janeiro. The economic center of the country, it was called the Brazilian Venice. In 1950, the city employed the famous architect Roberto Burle Marx for design of several squares and places of public rest of citizens which decorate Recife and today. On June 12, 1966, in Recife, there was an unsuccessful attempt at the military dictator Arthur da Costa and Silva, during which 14 people died, but he didn't suffer. The attempt was used by the government for expansion of a large-scale campaign of terror of the minding political opponents. Recife is located in the northeast of Brazil, at the place of confluence of the Beberibe and Capibaribe rivers with the Atlantic Ocean. The historic center of the city and the most prestigious areas lie on 3 islands in the mouth of the rivers Recife, Santo Antonio and Boa Vista. Natural landscapes around the city represent a strip of the low hills which overgrew tropical forests separating the coast from the region Caatinga. The Brazilian savanna. Soils around the city are poor as heavy rains wash away from them useful substances. The city is in a zone of subequatorial climate. He tropical monsoonal, on Kyopan's classification category S. The heat is a little softened with influence of the ocean, a dry season, from October to December. According to the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics, the population of the city in 2013 made 1.6 million people, agglomerations more than 3.8 million. The 9th and 5th places over the country respectively. Racial structure of the population. White -41.4%. Pardo -49.1%. Blacks -8.3%. Asians -1.0%. White residents of Recife generally are descendants of the Portuguese immigrants, a small part Dutches and Spaniards. About 55% of citizens, Catholics, 25% Protestants, 15% atheists. The crime rate is high that is typical for the large cities of Brazil. Throughout the most part of history of Brazil of Recife was one of the main economic centers of the country and the main town of the northeast region. He plays this role in today. The main branches of urban economy are Atlântico Sul, the largest shipyard of the southern hemisphere. Trade. Production of electronics. Shipbuilding. Information technologies. Food industry. Light industry. Healthcare. Tourism. In the city there are several science and technology parks, the most important of which, Industrial Swape and specializing in electronics and information porto-digital technologies. In which, among other things, the Brazilian representative offices Microsoft and IBM placed. Recife is the 4th most popular destination in Brazil. After Rio de Janeiro, Salvador and the Iguazu Falls. Tourists are attracted, first of all, by magnificent ocean beaches and also historic districts, including the center of Olinda included in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. A set of shopping centers, boutiques and restaurants, bright nightlife. The healthcare, an important part of urban economy, Recife is the second, after Sao Paulo, at the cost of the rendered medical services by the city of Latin America. Recife is served by the International Airport Guararapes, IATA, Recife, Sergipe, with a passenger turnover of 6.4 million people a year. Regular passenger flights are made to all main cities of Brazil and also Miami, Buenos Aires, Frankfurt am Main, Panama and Lisbon. In the city there is the Brazilian Center of Control of the Aviation Movements in Dr. 3. Centro Integrado de Defesa Área e Controle de Tráfego Aéreo. Through Recife there pass federal highways of BRI-101. Porto Alegre, Natal. BRI-232. Recife, Parnamirim and BRI-408. Recife, Campina Grande. The second acts in the city in Brazil on a passenger traffic the subway. 4 lines, 71 kilometers, 40 stations. And 17 bus companies transporting passengers. Architecture. The city is located on the continent and coastal islands connected to it bridges. Constructions of the colonial period. Monasteries Santo Antonio and San Francisco, 1609. Forts in Capontes, 17th century. Gold chapel churches, 1716. A. De Mates and San Pedro de Clarigas, 1729. 2M. Ferreira Isacoma. Monument of Classicism of the 19th century. Santa Isabel Theatre, 1845. 50. L. Vati. Anatomic Laboratory, 1940. S. D. Brita. Park, 1954. R. Wirral Marx. Tackle Israel, a synagogue the Rock of Israel. Education and Museum Business. Philological Academy, 1901. Federal University, 1946. Catholic University, 1951. Museum of the State of Pernambuco, 1929. Ceramics Workshop Francisca Brananda, 1971. Ricardo Brennan's Institute Museum of Art, 2002. In 2015 it is recognized as the best museum of South America. Twin Cities. Portugal of Porto, Portugal, 1987. France Nantes, France, 2003. China of Guangzhou, China, 2007. Netherlands Amsterdam, Netherlands, 2009. Statistics. The gross internal product for 2005 makes 16.664. 468 mil of reals. Data. Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics. The gross internal product per capita for 2005 makes our dollar reals 1,110,200. Data. Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics. The Index of Human Development for 2005 makes 0.810. Data. Program of Development of the Union. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.